Hello and welcome to Belfast. Yes, we're back again. This is our second visit to Belfast and we have got lots planned today.
We are Tom and Dom Travel and our channel is dedicated to sharing our adventures with you. If you haven't done so already, press that subscribe button and don't forget to give this video a like.
First things first, we got up pretty early today because we knew we were heading out and about in Belfast and we headed to breakfast.
We made our way up to the Borough Market and we were really surprised to see all of the Easter decorations because today is Easter Sunday. On all of the food stations, they'd really gone to town in terms of making these little chocolate eggs and decorations and even carving the face of Jesus Christ into a watermelon.
We've got to the stage of the cruise where our breakfasts are a little bit lighter, so today I just chose to have a bowl of porridge with a bit of syrup.
I also went for a light breakfast and I continued on my cereal theme and just had a bowl of cornflakes with a cup of coffee and some fruit juice as well.
Breakfast was once again quite busy, as it has been every day, and there is quite a struggle to find a seat sometimes, so you do have to persevere to make sure you can get a table, but we eventually found one. At the stations themselves there isn't too much of a queue at all.
The interesting to note on board Ambience is it's not self-service. In the Borough Market the food is served to you. Usually sometimes that can cause a little bit of a queue, but the guys behind the counters are so good and efficient.
Yeah.
It kind of sort of moves everyone along quite well.
After breakfast then we headed out on deck and grabbed ourselves a coffee from the coffee house.
The coffee house is the onboard coffee shop. It's got its own designated area out on deck 12. We took our coffees then up to deck 14 and just had a look at some of the views of Belfast from the ship.
We could spot those iconic cranes that are used for shipbuilding, so it was great to see those. They are the yellow Holland and Wolf cranes and they are iconic. You can't fail to recognise them as soon as you see them.
After stretching our legs and getting a bit of fresh air out on deck 14, we then made our way back to the cabin just to pick up a few of our bits so that we could go off and explore Belfast. Now today we hadn't pre-booked any excursions. What we had pre-booked were 2 tickets to the Titanic Experience.
So we made sure we got off pretty early because we knew we had to make our own way. So we disembarked the ship, and lucky for us the port had put on a free shuttle bus from the ship itself to the information centre in the city centre of Belfast.
Belfast terminal is quite small. There are a number of tourist information people in there that provided us with some hints and tips on how to get to the Titanic Museum quickly, and they were really helpful.
The guides from the tourist information centre were on board the bus as well if you needed help, and they were guiding people on and filling the bus up, so it worked really smoothly, really quickly. And it was actually double-decker buses we're on, and we did get to sit at the front of the bus on the way there, so that was good fun.
We didn't have to queue very long and we were pretty much straight on the shuttle bus, and it took around about 20 minutes to get into the centre of Belfast. The drop-off spot and pick-up for the return journey was the Tourist Information Centre just opposite City Hall.
It's very, very easy to find. Once we got off the bus then, we made our way through the city centre itself with a little detour because we did get slightly lost and headed towards the Titanic Experience. It was a great little walk through the city centre. We came across some narrow streets, some areas where you could see it would be really lively later on in the day. We came down one alleyway there where it was lined with umbrellas above us, different colours umbrellas. Belfast really has a nice feel about it.
From the city centre there is a designated Titanic Trail that you can easily follow. However, we somehow managed to get diverted. I think because we stopped off at McDonald's just to grab a coffee.
We should have turned right, but we went straight on. Never mind. We also walked past the Albert Memorial Clock, which has been in Belfast for years and years and years. But that area is now really well done, really built up. There's a tram that stops nearby there. There's bus stops nearby there as well. And from there on, you can cross over the river and head towards the Titanic Experience.
The Titanic Trail can take around about 30 to 35 minutes to walk it on foot. However, there are also buses available.
They're called City Gliders and you can pick them up just opposite the Tourist Information Centre and they drop you not far away from the Titanic Experience.
Walking along the river towards the Titanic Museum is a really quite a nice walk. There's lots of little cafes and shops all set up outside. Just outside the Titanic Museum is the SS Nomadic, and if you purchase, like we did, a Titanic Experience ticket, you can also visit the SS Nomadic.
But first of all, we headed into the Titanic Experience because we really needed the toilet. So we found the toilets were located on the lower ground section, and then we headed up to queue for the 11:30 slot which we had.
When you do book your experience for the Titanic Museum online, you have to select a designated time, and they really do keep to those times. So we arrived at 11:20, we booked for 11:30, and we thought, it'd be all right, we can just go straight in. But no, they were quite adamant that you had to wait until 11:30 on the dot before they allowed you in. We thought this was a little bit strange until we actually got into the museum, and wow, was it busy.
So what you do once you've reached your time, you go up the escalator and into the experience itself.
The Titanic Experience is split into different sections of history. The first room you walk into is all about Belfast and Belfast's history in terms of shipmaking and the industry that basically allowed the city to grow.
Yeah, it's how the city grew from being a small town into the big shipbuilding and trade hub that it became to be at the time of the Titanic. After that first section, you enter into another space where we joined a very big queue. The queue was for the Titanic Experience ride. It is like a cable car type ride that takes about 6 minutes altogether to complete, but there were staff there from the experience saying that the wait time was about 30 minutes. What you do, you wait in a small queue to get to a lift. The staff there send you up in the lift and you join another queue to get to the ride. It is quite a lengthy process, and I think it was much longer than it normally is for us because it is Easter weekend, so it was very busy in there.
The ride itself detailed the construction of the Titanic, and it was really, really interesting. Something quite unique, and I could see why a lot of people were queuing up for it.
It is something that you'd only normally get in a theme park or something like that. How they've done it in the experience itself to give you information in a different way was really good. After that, there's lots more information about the Titanic, the people who were on there, the captain, the crew, other ships that are around that area. Lots of different factors that all led up to the disaster that was the Titanic. So it's very, very good.
Within the museum itself, they also detailed quite extensively the design and the layout of each of the ship's decks and cabins. It was really, really interesting just to see how first, second and third class passengers all stayed on board in different types of cabins.
The final room probably is the best and the most emotive. How they've done that with all the interactive screens is really good. It was also very poignant at the end because they gave lots of statistics to say how many people died, how many survived, what percentage were men, what percentage were women, what percentage of the crew on board survived. It was really, really sad. And they also gave information about the later years after the Titanic was rediscovered, how they found it on the ocean floor and what they did to recover some of the artifacts. And then in the final room, they do have some of those artifacts on display, which is really poignant. They've got, for example, a violin that was played while the Titanic was sinking. They've got a stopwatch that stopped at the time the owner must have drowned in the water. So there is some really, really poignant items there. In summary, the Titanic Experience cost us £25 per person to do. In our view, it is well worth the money. It was a really good experience and it took us around 3 hours altogether to complete. It does take a bit of a length of time and there is a lot of standing involved if you do have mobility issues, but they have mobility access as well. You can get through there with a wheelchair. Even the ride itself has accessibility for people in wheelchairs, so which is great. After we left the Titanic Experience, we headed out to look at the docks where the Titanic would have been and its sister ship.
There's a huge cleared area with markings on the floor just depicting indicating where the Titanic would have been. After walking around the grounds, we then made our way to the SS Nomadic. Now, we didn't know this at the time, but our ticket for the Titanic Experience also enables you to go on board the SS Nomadic and have a self-guided tour. The SS Nomadic was actually a tender ship for the Titanic.
It's been everything from a tender ship to a floating restaurant. So it does have a really good history. It's great to see some of the original features still in place on there. There is still some original panelling. There's also an option for you to do a bit of fancy dress, and we tried on the life jackets that would have been around at the time, and they are very different to the life jackets we have on board the ships now. Obviously they must have worked, but they definitely don't feel as reliable as ours do.
They've got a mock-up of how a crew cabin looked.
Yeah.
You could have a look in the engine room and see where the old style propellers were. Just really interesting.
We spent probably about 45 minutes in there, with the Titanic Experience taking 3 hours. Altogether we were there about 4 hours.
And it was absolutely well worth every penny we paid. It was fantastic.
By that time we were quite tired, so we decided to walk back through the city, back along the river first of all, over the bridge and into the city centre itself, to head towards the bus in order to catch it back to the ship.
The shuttle buses were running every half hour. So we quickly hurried to get on the bus, because obviously towards the end of the day, all the other passengers on board trying to get back to the ship, and we didn't want to miss it.
Luckily we saw there wasn't too much of a queue, and we had about 10-15 minutes left, so we crossed over the road and had a couple of pictures in front of Belfast City Hall with the Belfast sign, which was all in flowers, which looked great. So there was a few pictures of the Belfast City sign, then jumped back into the queue, and by that time the bus had arrived and we got straight on board. No waiting around at all then.
Fantastic. Another 20-25 minute drive back to Ambience, and a really pleasant experience.
Once we got back on board, it was time for afternoon tea.
We hadn't had anything to eat all day, well, since breakfast anyway, and we were feeling a little bit peckish. So we were really surprised to see that the vast majority of offerings in afternoon tea today were all cakes and sweet treats in honour of Easter Sunday.
It was an absolute Easter feast. There were so many cakes, scones, eclairs, red velvet cake, lots, just lots. Also as well, there were the usual toasted sandwiches, finger sandwiches, fruit, fresh fruit available. Afternoon tea, there is plenty to eat.
So unfortunately I wasn't able to grab my selection of evening treats, because there was no sausage rolls or bacon rolls today. There were mushroom rolls. Not my cup of tea at all, so that was a pass from me, I'm afraid.
After afternoon tea, we took the lift and headed back down towards our cabin, but first of all we stopped off at the Buckingham restaurant, because we knew we weren't going to go in there at all today, because we have sea and grass booked for dinner. But we did want to look at all the Easter decorations that we knew they had in there, and they did have a fantastic display.
We then made our way back to the cabin to get ready for a formal night tonight.
Yes.
And also Sea and Grass, which is an onboard speciality restaurant.
So we headed up to Sea and Grass at 7 o'clock, which was our allocated time, and we were sat down straight away. The restaurant itself was only about a third full. I would say mostly just couples.
The Sea and Grass is located up on deck 12, adjacent to the coffee house. It's quite a nice venue. It's got windows looking out to the ocean, really quite well decorated. Our only criticism was it was a little bit too dark in there for us. The Sea and Grass on board is an additional charge at around £25 each per person. They do also offer wine pairing with your dinner. However, it's an additional £5 charge, and it's only 2 glasses of wine, one red and one white. When we sat down at the table, they also gave us a complimentary glass of rosé prosecco.
The rosé prosecco was very nice. Good start to our meal. The menu in Sea and Grass is split into 7 courses. Our waiter came over and explained that to us quite properly abruptly, where he said you've got 2 choices: choose your main, choose your side, and then left. Okay.
Ever since we booked this cruise, I have been really looking forward to experiencing the sea and grass on board. So we pretty much knew the setup. It's essentially a set menu, and the only choice you've got is for your main.
First of all, they come to the table and offer you a selection of bread. These are several different types of bread and 3 different types of butter. Now the butter, these were solid. It felt like they hadn't taken them out of the freezer until we ordered our bread, so by the time they came to the table they were pretty solid, and it was really hard to try and scrape some butter to put onto your bread.
The bread, however, was delicious and completely different to the selection you'd find in the main dining room.
And some of the bread was actually toasted. First course of the official menu was scallops with salmon caviar. Very interesting for us. The scallops were very tasty, we really enjoyed them, but the caviar was a little bit too fishy for us, but that is just our taste. I don't think there was anything wrong, and it was beautifully presented.
So the scallops on the menu are described as smoked, and smoked they were. They come with a little bowl, they lift off the lid, and the smoke or the aromas are supposed to lift. However, it was essentially, it just felt as if the guys in the kitchen had just burnt a bit of paper, captured the smoke, and then put the lid on.
It wasn't very fragrant smell.
It just smelled burnt.
It smelled like
burnt paper.
a burn, yes, so it wasn't ideal. The second course was the goat cheese mousse that came with a walnut cream and beetroot puree. It was very tasty. We both really enjoyed it.
It was absolutely delicious, and they paired it really well with the beetroot puree. It was very tasty.
The next course then was another experience. It was the green and white asparagus soup. 2 waiters came to our table, each with a teapot, and they each poured soup into our bowl, one with green soup, one with white soup. It looked spectacular and it was really well done. The taste of the soup, once again, was phenomenal. This was probably one of my favourite dishes out of them all. How it was presented, how it tasted, it was great.
The soups on board, including this one, have been absolutely fab and thoroughly enjoyed it.
On top of the bowl came a little bread crisp. Once again, that was beautiful.
For the 4th course, that was the salad course, and it was an avocado and tomato salad with a beautiful lemon honey dressing. It was actually really tasty.
The salad itself wasn't anything spectacular, but the dressing really set it off. I think that was what gave the salad its flavour. The dressing really was the highlight of the salad.
And then it was time for the intermission, or intermezzo as they call it, and this was an orange sorbet with a Campari foam. And it was very tasty, really refreshing, and I would eat it again.
It was very tasty because I ate mine much faster than Dom ate his, so that is saying something. So I really enjoyed that.
The 5th course is the main course.
Well, this is where things just didn't go as we had hoped.
Myself and Tom both opted for the grilled black Angus beef ribeye, because we do like a bit of steak, and we haven't had any on this one yet.
No, we haven't had no steak yet. We were looking forward to it. The steak arrived and we were both quite disappointed. Mine wasn't too bad, but Dom's was just gristly fat.
There was very little meat on this steak, and it was just full of fat all the way through. It was not good at all. And I did something that I've never ever done before. And that was I sent it back.
We've never done that on any cruise, so it was disappointing. I did eat mine while Dom was waiting for his to be redone. Again, mine was a little fatty, but that was okay. But what was disappointing for me was the béarnaise sauce. That actually didn't taste like the sauce at all. All it tasted like was butter with a couple of herbs added. It just wasn't up to scratch at all.
No, the béarnaise sauce was just melted butter.
Yeah, just not great.
When my steak came back, I was disappointed again, because I don't know what was going on, whether or not they had any good cuts of meat left. Was I just unlucky?
But it was still fatty.
It wasn't good. I didn't eat it.
You also have the choice of sides with your main dish. We both went for the same options. We went for cauliflower cheese and potato dauphinoise. They were both really good, but the portion sizes are quite small. Now don't get me wrong, by the time you are onto your main course, you have gone through quite a lot of food. So you definitely do not want a plate full of cauliflower cheese. But just be aware that if you choose one dish to share, which we nearly did,
It wouldn't have been
there's
enough.
not enough to share. So it definitely is a portion for one. After our main course then came the cheese course. And now the cheese course was actually quite impressive when it arrived at the table.
They brought a whole tray of cheese out and it looked absolutely incredible.
There were 4 different options of cheese on this big huge cheese board, big tray, and they allowed you to choose how much you wanted and also had a choice of crackers as well. And if you wanted to have fruit, you could have some grapes.
Really tasty, really enjoyed it. The only thing I would have liked is perhaps a wider variety of crackers because they only had cream crackers available.
We really enjoyed that cheese course and it didn't take long for us to finish that off. It was really nice.
Then on to our 7th course, which was the dessert course.
Yes, the desserts came really well presented. There were 3 desserts and a small cappuccino.
There was a mini creme brulee, a little bit of tiramisu, a macaron, as well as this little mini cappuccino.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. I think those little macarons were definitely my favourite out of the 3. And that was the meal. It was definitely interesting. What we did do though is we fed our feedback back to the restaurant manager and the chef, so we did make sure that they were aware of what we thought of the food.
All in all, we were in Sea and Grass for about 2.5 hours,
Yeah.
which is quite a good length of time for 7 courses, I think.
It's a good length of time, but we didn't wait too long between each course, and we did have a couple of glasses of wine that kept us going throughout, so the waitress in there was very good with keeping us topped up with wine.
Overall, it was an okay experience. We enjoyed the vast majority of courses, but that main really did leave us a little bit disappointed. But you know, live and learn. Hopefully next time.
So we've still got saffron to go on board, so we shall let you know how it goes in the other speciality restaurant.
After Sea and Grass, we quickly hurried down to a bar that we haven't been into yet, and that was Raffles.
We've never had time to go into Raffles because we've always been hurrying somewhere else. So tonight we did make sure we spent some time in Raffles with the piano player that they have in there, the pianist, and we got chatting to some of our other fellow passengers, and it was just nice to sit in there and have a drink. It's a good atmosphere and it's a really nice place to be on formal night because it does feel like a venue that suits formal night.
After a couple of drinks in Raffles, we quickly headed over to the Palladium Theatre for this evening's Soul and Motown show performed by the Showcast.
Now, it was a really good show. The team put on a fantastic performance. The songs were great, the energy was great. Like we've said before, they do that twice a night.
No, they sang a huge variety of Motown and soul songs, all the way back from the 60s, all the way up into modern day. It was really good.
After the Soul and Motown show, we rushed up to the conservatory because we knew there was going to be a cabaret performance once again by the show team, and when there is a cabaret performance, you know it is going to be busy. Luckily for us, we found a seat for 2 of us right near the front of the dance floor and was able to have a good view of the cabaret.
Once again, the onboard team were absolutely incredible. They sung some brilliant songs. Everybody was up, including us, dancing away.
Yeah.
Really good show.
The one thing that I would say is it gets very warm up there in the observatory, and we were definitely feeling warm in our formal suits.
During the Showcast cabaret set, they also came round with canopies, and because I couldn't get any treats or snacks from afternoon tea, I did take a few canapes and quickly rushed back to the room and stored them for later.
So we stayed in there for the cabaret performance, and then for about an hour afterwards with the late night disco, as we've said, with DJ Ryan, and then it was time to head out to the buffet, grab myself a cup of tea, and then we headed back down to the cabin.
Back in the cabin then, I happily munched on the canapes that I stored earlier on.
And that was the end of our day in Belfast.
Yeah, very busy, really interesting. Belfast is a beautiful city, and the Titanic Museum is an absolute must. So tomorrow we are in the Irish port of Cove. So we're really looking forward to that. It'll be the first time that Tom has ever stepped foot in the Irish Republic.
Join us tomorrow.
Thanks for watching our day in Belfast on the beautiful Ambassador Ambience. If you've got any comments or questions, just pop them in the box below and I'll get back to you.
And please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon to never miss a video from us.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching. We've got lots more content available on our YouTube channel, so press that subscribe button. If you're interested in receiving daily updates, we're available on most social media platforms. Just search for Tom and Dom Travel.